All right, listen, if you're a coach in the league, if you work in the organization, front office, GM, or if you even work for the European League of Football, this show right here, this one's for you guys because it's time to have the conversation.
We doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them out. I'm really biting, they just barking out. I'm really riding, they just parking out. His street, what to talk about. See the big H when I'm walking.
Have the conversation. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Base Coverage. I'm your host, Jamal Clay. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're in the off season now. All right, we're at a time where this is the beauty about Europe is that every year teams have hope. Why? Why do teams have hope every year? Because every year is a new team, right? A lot of these guys are signing 1-year contracts. There's a ton of turnover. Every team is essentially built from scratch for the most part. So that's why the offseason in Europe in general is a fun time. It's an interesting time, and it's a time to give fan bases hope, right? So with that being said, it's time we have the conversation. It's time we finally talk about this topic because I think this is so important for the league and going forward, and that's coaching opportunities for coordinators, right? Last week I had new head coach of the Munich Ravens on, Coach Kendra Ellison, who was a defensive coordinator for the Sea Devils for the first 3 years in the ELF, now getting his opportunity to be a head coach for the Munich Ravens. However, I did mess up and give some misinformation during that interview, as I thought he was the first coordinator to get a head coaching opportunity. He's actually the second. The very first one came from Coach Black and the Barcelona Dragons this past year, heading into year 3, as he went from defensive coordinator to head coach for the Barcelona Dragons. So he was the first. Kendra Ellison was the second. And my question is who's next, right? It's time we see at least opportunities that are worthy for these coordinators to get opportunities to become head coaches in the ELF. All right, as the league continues to grow, we want to not only develop players, but we want to make sure these coaches are developed as well. So before I dive into it a little bit, listen to what Kendra Ellison had to say when I asked him about this topic and coordinators getting opportunities in the ELF. Right. Do you think we'll see more opportunities like this as long as the league continues to advance and move forward?
Man, I really hope so. Because what is winning these assistant coach of the year awards and what has been a great assistant coach mean if we don't have an opportunity to climb that ladder? And if there's no room really for growth, or the only growth is to go back overseas, then the prospects gets a little slim. But I really hope, because there's a lot of great OCs, DCs, linebacker coaches, DB coaches, receiver coaches that I hope they climb that ladder, and they should climb that ladder. And that's what this league should be about, just being able to work towards their goal and sit there and say, hey, one day I have aspirations to be a head coach. Okay, well, you can be a head coach in this league,
Yeah, he hit it right on the head. And I think it's very important that, there's some type of process or something put into play where these guys will get opportunities. Some coordinators that come off the top of my head that I think that is ready for those roles. I think of like Kyle Callahan, OC for the Raiders. He's been the OC for a while. He's been part of the organization for a while. They have the head coaching vacancy open now. Does he move into that spot? We'll see. Another one that we're all familiar with, Coach Weidinger for the Rhine Fire. Obviously, he was the head coach of the Barcelona Dragons, now the offensive coordinator. I firmly believe if he wanted to be a head coach, he'll be a head coach in this league based on the track record in his first 2 years coaching in the league. So it really all depends on, his current situation. But he definitely deserves a head coach opportunity if that's what he wants. Some other guys. One of the teams, I like what they did this past offseason, Berlin Thunder, and promoting Henry Schlegel to offensive coordinator, one of the youngest offensive coordinators in the league. Now, a lot of questions came with that move, but it's an opportunity given to somebody who can prove himself. And yes, their offense started off a little slow, but you can see during the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, it started to develop more and more and more. I still think there's a lot of opportunity, for him to grow into his role, but who knows? We could see at this rate, we could see him possibly becoming the head coach before he even turns 30. We'll see, but there's definitely a lot of growth opportunities for a guy like that. And then another one, Johannes Brenner, defensive coordinator for Stuttgart Surge, and what he was able to do this year with the Surge, being part of that turnaround organization. He's been with Coach Newman for a while, even with the Schwabers Hall Unicorn days. So those are just some guys that I can think of off the top of my head. But let me know what you guys think. I like to keep this interactive and comment. Do these guys deserve opportunities? Should there be a process in place? Should teams interview a certain amount of candidates, when going through the process? Not saying that we don't know if they are or not, but I personally would love to see more coordinators get those opportunities. And there's nothing wrong bringing in a Norman Chow. There's nothing wrong with bringing in a Jim Tom Sula or guys with other experience, right? There's nothing wrong with that because that only helps grow the game as well. But also you want to make sure that these coaches are developed and that, they have a purpose, right? They're not just going to be a coordinator for the rest of their duration and coaching in Europe. They're striving to be something in the European League of Football. So we'll see. But I think to grow and develop those guys is huge. It's a huge opportunity for the league. And, my question is, how do we get there? When do we get there, right? We'll see. We're heading into the offseason. Based on last year's timeline, I don't know anything definitive, but if I compare it to that, it looks like offseason will probably kick off around the second week of November. Again, I'm not confirming anything. I don't know for sure, but if I'm just basing off last year's timeline, that's when guys were able to, sign their free agents. I'm sure maybe a week or two before they could re-sign some of their own guys, but we'll see. And while we're on the topic, let's talk about at least the head coaching opportunities that are available. It's early, and obviously the offseason is the year of the turnover, right? The year of hope for future fan bases. There's a lot of head coaching opportunities available now. All right. We got the Madrid Bravos, right? Complete team starting from scratch. Everything's going to be new when it comes to them. But who do they get? Who do they target, right? Because now you're fighting with territory with Barcelona, and it's going to be interesting to see who they go in that route. We already spoke about the Raiders, right? I think Coach Callahan's just an easy plug-and fit. Guy's been there for a while. It's his system. He could call his offense. We'll see what happens. The Hamburg Sea Devils, right? One of the most decorated teams in the European League of Football, right? They're making their third head coaching change, right? GM is going to the Rhine Fire. They parted ways with their head coach. Defensive coordinators going to Munich. What do they do there, right? Cologne Centurions, a team that really needs somebody to come in and, build that team up from scratch. Again, you're battling with territory with the Fire, a guy who can recruit. I think the Centurions is going to be an interesting spot. Their defense took a step. With a lot of guys who return. So I don't think they're as far as people say they are, or people may think, but we'll see. The Milano Seamen, right? That's another team that's just a defense away. They got the offense. They got the guys on there. And then shout out to my guy, Matt Bresenton, put out a great article about building the Milano Seamen and some of his thoughts and ideas. Go check that out on AFI Review. But, there are a lot of positions that are out there. And, we'll see what happens and, where teams, decide to go in those routes. But it's an interesting time. It's a time to get excited for, right? Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I think it's time to have the conversation to get these get these coordinators in a position to be head coaches. But we'll see. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk soon.
Hard work, they don't know about it. Hard work, they don't know about it. Hard work, they don't know about it.